guys, how you doing? All right. So if you follow us on Twitter, which you totally should, you know that I literally just wrote this talk last night, and you also know that I just edited this talk 5 minutes ago. So this is gonna be a mess, and it's gonna be amazing. So let's go. Okay, risky business. We have a lot of Gen Z millennials in the crowd. So if you don't know, risky business is this whole coming of age story, right? And it's babyface Tom Cruise. His parents go to town. Shit goes down. It's an adorable story, right? And it's mostly adorable because Tom Cruise is literally 21 years old, and I don't know, he gets away with stuff. He gets in trouble, but he gets away with stuff. And the reason he can get away with this stuff is mostly because he's sort of this underdog, and he just can't catch a break, and you just feel for him the entire time. And I kind of think of crypto as this story, because we get away with a lot of stuff when we probably shouldn't. We refuse to learn from our past mistakes. Really, we don't. We refuse to learn how to make our smart contracts secure. And yet, okay, it's adorable. But I think that if we want to grow up, if we want to have a coming of age story rather than fall flat on our face story, we should probably not rely on being adorable to get away with all the risky business we engage in. This is just, I'm sure everyone knows this quote, but really, if we don't learn from history, if we don't remember history, we are going to repeat it. And we're already starting to see this. We're looking at smart contract hacks, and they're the same type of hacks that have happened again and again and again. And I'll get to what happened this morning, but we'll just leave it at that for now. And so some of the most important things when we think about risk, and we think about just generally, broadly, what we need in order to sort of mitigate or reduce that risk, we need more self-awareness. We need more vigilance. We need appreciation for the technology that we're using and the power and the impact it has on actual, real people around the world. We're trying to create this technology. We're trying to create these products for people. And if we don't appreciate that technology can go really, really well or really badly, we are going to be in trouble. And I really think that in this space, we do need a higher level of fear and paranoia and skepticism about what we're doing today. Because if we don't, again, it's only going to be adorable for so long. Yeah, this isn't adorable, okay? It isn't. And this is basically where crypto is. And as we see the market pick back up, we are going to look more and more like this. Basically like a complete and utter douchebag, and we don't want to be this. So, backing up, what is risk? Risk is basically bad things happening, right? It's the unexpected. It's when you're expecting one thing to happen, you're expecting to make money, you're expecting to save the world, you're expecting to make this amazing product, and then something happens and it all goes wrong, and you lose money, you lose your users' money, everything gets hacked, your product doesn't save the world. One of the most interesting things that I've been researching lately is sort of the evolution of the internet, and we see this all the time. They were so idealistic and they were so optimistic, and yet they ended up really creating some pretty bad things at the end of the day that they never intended to. And we need to be aware of those so that we can mitigate even that risk, right? We don't want to go down this path where we think that we're connecting everyone. We think we're creating this new decentralized world. And in fact, we're just creating a really great system to invade everyone's privacy and exploit literally the entire globe. So when we think about risk, there's a ton of different types of risk. Some of it is very specific to financial markets, and some of it's really specific to crypto. And that's one of the most interesting things about DeFi is it's really combining these two inherently risky things, throwing them together, mashing them up, and then kind of expecting everything to be okay. And the reality is we're gonna have to work really, really hard if we want it to be okay. So some of the risks that, just off the top of my head, we have reliance risk. I call it reliance risk, compounding risk, right? It's everything is stacked on top of each other. We love to think about the DeFi Legos, but if the foundation is not solid, it's more like Jenga and we're gonna fall on our face. You have like security risk, smart contract risk. You have counterparty risk, which DeFi does eliminate some of, but then you have liquidity risk still. Obviously, regulatory risk. These upgradable smart contracts. If you guys don't follow Chris Black on Twitter, you need to right now because he's been doing amazing research into like how are these smart contract upgradable smart contracts secured, right? Like, is it just a private key? Is it just a private key like on a post-it on someone's like freaking desktop, right? Like, what is protecting the inherent smart contract code? Because most, if not all, of these smart contracts are upgradable. Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, this presentation is a freaking wonder. Okay, so this morning, like literally like 4 hours ago, there was a bad thing that happened. And there's sort of like this argument that's happening in Telegram on whether or not this bad thing was a hack. And I'm like, I don't really care what you call it, because at the end of the day, something unexpected happened. And obviously details are still coming out, but as of right now, this is what we know. Somebody took an unknown amount of money from Fulcrum. I think the number is going to be about $350K. That's what it is right now. And it looks like they sort of like, so there's DYDX involved, there's Compound involved, there's Fulcrum involved. Then they did a WBTC short on something else, and then, or they borrowed the WBTC on Compound, and then they sold it on Uniswap to push that down. And again, because everything's relying on one another, everything is compounded, they were able to sort of combine all of these things and make a whole bunch of money. And obviously when someone makes a whole bunch of money, there's usually someone on the other side who loses money. And again, so standing from Aave, he said, I think he forwarded this message, and so I don't know if I want to put him on the spot, but at the very end it says, then this doesn't sound like a hack at all. It wasn't a vulnerability in the smart contract. It was a complex arbitrage market manipulation scheme. I don't care what it is. Okay, like this is absurd that we're like, oh, well, at least our smart contract didn't get hacked. At least we didn't write like bad code that was like insecure in the more traditional way. We just wrote bad code that did something unexpected in a different way, right? Like it just doesn't make sense. So this is what I'm talking about when we talk about like being vigilant, right, and being paranoid. Don't hide behind like legalese. Don't hide around like words like, oh, we didn't get hacked. We just allowed our market to be completely manipulated. It's again, it's not adorable. And I love this. Phil was in this chat, and I just had to freaking quote this because if you guys don't know Phil, he has done such immense research on this. His DEF CON 4 talk was literally like, it was this in a nutshell. And he points out that security is not only whether the code does what is designed, but also what properties the design should provide to users. The ETH community has gotten good at the former while throwing the latter into the shitter because now there are DeFi profits to be made. Just because your code works does not mean that your system is secure. And I think this is real talk. I think that this is the stuff that needs to be top of mind for us. All right, and then what makes this kind of thing especially painful, and again, details are still coming out. We'll probably learn exactly what happened, but I want to say like 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, Sam Sun, who's a security researcher and smart contract hacker extraordinaire, basically went through a whole bunch of the market smart contracts and specifically did this long post on DDEX and BZX, which is Fulcrum. And he basically went and looked at situations where relying on like Uniswap for price data or anyone for price data, if you can manipulate the price data, you can make the smart contract do things that you wouldn't normally expect or you shouldn't allow them to do. Yeah, and so he made some recommendations to them, and they implemented some fixes. But the first, when he initially found this exploit, it would have resulted in the loss of all liquid funds. And here's his takeaways from this article. And again, this article was published months ago. Don't use an on-chain decentralized oracle without some sort of validation. Period. End of conversation. Okay? And also consider the implications of dependencies on third-party projects. This is something I create a JavaScript project. This is like one of our biggest fears, right? Dependencies. Because you have NPM, we've seen so many bad things happen with the supply chain attacks and all that stuff. But it does also apply to smart contracts, right? Just because you're not like including something in your package.json doesn't mean that you're not relying on it. And this is a perfect example of a situation where both DDEX and BZX were relying on Uniswap and relying on Kyber to provide information as expected. And obviously, if that information was not as expected, then the smart contract itself didn't act as expected, which usually means that people lose money, and we don't want that to happen. And this is my favorite line of this article. He says, when you're introducing a dependency into your when you're introducing a dependency on a third-party project, consider not only whether the project has been audited, but also whether the project specification and threat model align with your own. So just because we think or we assume or we know or whatever word you want to use that Uniswap is secure, just because Uniswap can't be hacked, right, doesn't mean that it can't be manipulated or something can't happen with that dependency that could manipulate your own system, right? Again, this compounding risk, this reliance risk, etc. Okay, and then like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, there was this super awesome smart contract called Curve. They put it on the mainnet without any sort of audit. And then guess what happened? Can anyone guess what happened? No? No one? Really? Rich, what do you think happened? So something bad happened, and then everyone had to run around like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to get the funds out before people lost the money. And thank goodness they were able to frickin' do so. But it's absurd. I know that we want to create amazing things. Okay, I know that this environment is exciting. I get it. Okay, but putting a smart contract on the mainnet, then letting it grow to like $1 million, and expecting it not to be just annihilated, it's clueless. It's not adorable. It's absurd. And right now, the market's growing, right? We're seeing the hype. And I said about 6 months ago that lending will never be hype. And I can say with 100% certainty that I was wrong. We are officially in this market where lending and these DeFi protocols are hyped. And they're going to get hyped in the same way that ICOs were hyped. And you're going to see people throw money in them. And I get that it's exciting. But at the end of the day, you have a responsibility to yourself, your team, your employees, the people who use your product, the people that rely on your product, and the entire community and ecosystem as a whole. If you do something that's irresponsible, that's clueless, and bad things happen, it has effects on a wide range of people. And you should be paranoid about that. That should scare you. Because that fear is the only thing that's going to drive you to actually make responsible decisions so that maybe in the future, less bad things happen. Okay, and so I'm going to go quickly through these because we just added all those slides. But this is one of my favorite examples of like this compounding, right? I'm just a regular person. I hear about this DeFi thing. I get super excited. You see these lending rates. I can make 8%, 10%. I can 2x, 20x, 100x long. That's amazing. So I grab my USD and I get my ETH. And that process in itself, just that process, carries all these risks, right? There's risks with crypto. There's risks with the financial market. There's also risks that like you get phished, right? Like you fall for a Twitter giveaway scam. And then I decide, you know what? I'm going to get some USDC because the ETH market is just like a little bit too rich for my blood. So I'm going to go back to be stable, but I still want exposure. I still want to kind of participate in these markets. And again, There's all these risks with just this individual process. And specifically with USDC, they have a blacklist, right? This is a centralized stablecoin. So if you do something they don't like, they could just take your tokens from you. Cool, right? And then in order to swap, you're gonna swap on Uniswap, and maybe that gets hacked. I think that's supposed to be, sorry. Okay, so just pretend that's USDC to see USDC via Compound. So now I'm gonna put this in Compound to make some money, right? And in return, I get CUSDC. But doing that process, we have these centralized points of failures. You can at some point just lose your key store file. You can get it hacked, whatever. Again, you're introducing more smart contracts where things can go wrong. Either they're manipulated or outright hacked. And then token sets is super freaking cool, and it is promising me the world. So I'm gonna take my CUSDC and I'm gonna put it in the ETHDenver index on token sets. And again, just this process carries its own risks, right? Smart contracts can be hacked. You have front running on the rebalancing of the orders. You really don't have much control over your holdings whatsoever. Let's not even think about the tax implications of all of this. And of course, you could still have the risk where you think you're going to make money and you don't make money because the market does something different. And so if we zoom out, that's risky. That's risky business. That's what we're doing. That's DeFi, right? That combination just to enter a token set position, that's a lot. And that's a very wide variety of risks. And this is why DeFi scares me, right? It's the overlap of all the smart contract risk, all the technical risk, all the crypto risk with regular financial risk, market risk, counterparty risk, liquidity risk, etc. Yeah, we should be scared. All right. And obviously, I just did an example with USDC because it's super fun because that's a centralized stablecoin that has a blacklist, literally an on-chain blacklist. But I think that we all know that the elephant in the room is Maker and DAI. And I'm just going to leave it at that because we all know it. All right, so if anyone ever tells you that there's no risk in DeFi or that DeFi is low risk, just run. Okay, that is a level of cockiness and arrogance that will result in bad things happening, right? If someone says that it's just an indication that they're not paying attention, that they're clueless, that they have no awareness. And that in itself is the biggest red flag about anything. You can go look at the audits, you can go look at the formal verification. It doesn't matter. Okay, that arrogance means that they're not going to be aware, they're not going to be on top of it. And really just run. Run. Okay, so I've been hearing that a lot of people think that I hate DeFi. But I want to be clear, I don't hate DeFi. I'm super excited about DeFi. I think that the potential for what this is amazing. Okay, we have Bitcoin, then we have Ether, and now we have DeFi. And the reality is one of the goals of cryptocurrencies is to give people access to money that doesn't have a central entity controlling it. But it also is, the whole concept of banking the unbanked, it doesn't just mean that people can have access to their money. It means that they can make that money work better for them. And that's where DeFi comes into play, and that's why it's so exciting. So as much as I talk about the risks and how silly this entire thing has become, it's really, 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 really exciting. And I want DeFi to succeed. I think we all do. But in order for something to be successful, we have to be aware that bad things can happen, that there are risks, so that we can mitigate those risks, we can reduce the risks, and we can actually make it successful, right? If we just kind of walk down this path where we're optimistic, we're idealistic, we refuse to, heed anyone's warnings, right? If we dismiss any feedback as just another troll on Twitter, we're never going to be able to address the issues at our core. And we need those outside people coming in and poking holes at our theories and poking holes at our contracts, poking holes at what we're trying to do, because that's how it becomes more robust. And so, again, I don't hate DeFi. It scares me. It really does. But the reason I'm on stage dedicating an entire talk to it is because I think that it is valuable if we get it right. And I want us to be able to get it right. So, how do we get it right? So first step is we have to be aware of the risk, and then we have to reduce the risk. And reducing the risk just means, like, generally speaking, have less sort of attack surfaces, right? Have less things that can possibly go wrong. So, you know, in my earlier example where we're relying on all these different things, with Fulcrum relying on Uniswap, you know, if you can restructure the systems to not be as reliant on other systems, or if you can change something, that's reducing the risk entirely. And then number 3 is mitigating the risk. So if something does go wrong, which it will, how do we make it so it doesn't go really, really wrong, right? Like, how do we make it so it's like, you know, a couple 100,000 rather than a couple 100 million? And so with those types of things, we want to look at, like, just like really kind of like broad, hard-coded safe limits, like reasonable things that, you know, this should never happen, but if it does, like, let's just not have that happen. Things like that. And again, like, most of my experience is in sort of JavaScript land, web land, but we see sort of the same pattern all the time. We focus so much on reducing the risk. We focus so much on the optimism and the idealism and the amazing products that we're building. And we see a lot of times that products just don't think too much about, like, mitigating or what to do if things do go wrong, right? So, like, when things go wrong, how do you address it really quickly? How do you detect it really quickly? And how do you limit the amount of loss to your users? So there's this really awesome project called DeFi Score. They have been doing a ton of research. Is Jordan here? Jordan's here. Jordan's right there. He's amazing. Okay. I'm so happy that someone is doing this. He and his team are basically going through, and they're trying to identify all the different risk factors that are sort of specific to our DeFi protocols. And yeah, it's really, really cool. But I think the most important thing about this tool is that it's going to continue to iterate, and it's going to continue to evolve, and we need more eyes on it so that when you look at sort of these output scores, they're accurate and they address all the risk. And then the other really important thing is, what do you do once you have these numbers? Like, what's the end goal, right? Because right now it's sitting on DeFi Score. You know, I go and I look at it because I think it's cool. But at the end of the day, what's the point of a product like this? And it's important to remember that we're building products for people. Oh, okay, 5 minutes. Okay, we're building products for people. And we need to make those people aware of the risk so that they can make an actually informed decision about the risk that they're taking on. And this is going to be more and more important as this bull market takes off again. It's going to get crazy out there. And if you continue to sort of talk to people like they've been in crypto for years and they survived the bear market, and you don't identify the risk, communicate the risk, and allow them to make, like, a really truly informed decision about the risk that they're taking on when they enter the space and when they interact with these DeFi protocols, then we're going to be in trouble. So, you know, as I'm building MyCrypto, we're thinking a lot about, like, what DeFi stuff do we want to integrate, what do we want to give people access to, and what attitudes do we want to sort of convey as we encourage people to interact with these protocols, right? Do we want to say, like, this is just like lending with your bank? You know, except that the interest rate's super high? No, I don't want to do that because it's not like lending with your bank, right? This is a new system. Most of these contracts are like 6 months old, 3 months old, 2 weeks old, you know? It's not like your bank. So, you know, the attitudes that we want to convey are like, you know, this is an experiment, this is cool, you can participate in it, you can maybe make some money, but you can also probably lose some money. You know, we want to convey those types of attitudes. And again, DeFi Score is doing amazing work and hopefully will help a whole bunch of products in the space help their users actually know what's going on. All right. I want to show you guys something really quick, because I don't think that people realize like where we're at right now. Okay, so this is the DAO. This is 2016. This was like very traditional exponential curve to the DAO, right? And we all know what happened to the DAO, right? Right? It got completely obliterated, completely. And then we forked our freaking network in order to save people's money because the amount of loss was so great, okay? And it was so early that we're like, okay, let's just undo that thing real quick. We're not going to undo anymore. There's not going to be a DAO. There's not going to be a recovery. There's not going to be forks anymore. We've seen, a couple things go through or try to go through, and they haven't gone through. It's been super contentious. But my biggest point with this slide is that curve right there, right? That hockey stick to the moon. Okay? And the same hockey stick we saw in 2017 with ICOs. This is insane. Like, that's insane. Okay? And here's the DeFi graph right now. And this is why I say that 6 months ago when I said that there's no way that lending is ever going to be hype, I was wrong, because that is a hockey stick. Okay? So when you're talking on Twitter, when you're talking to your users, when you're deciding whether you want to put a smart contract on mainnet unaudited, I want you to realize, okay, go back in time to beginning ICOs, think about the attitudes that people had, think about the mistakes that the ecosystem made, and then don't make them again. Okay? Include the risks, warn the people, educate the people, build better products, because that isn't going to just drop. It's not going to keep going flat. That's an exponential curve. It's going to go to the moon. And the only thing that we can do about it is try to prevent people from going all in and then losing all their money via all the ways that we just talked about. This is just a meme. Okay, so honestly though, what can we do about this, right? What can we do so that we don't fall on our faces, so that we can address the issues? And the very first thing that we need to do is that we need to talk about this, okay? We need to engage in honest discourse. We need to offer good faith feedback. We need to ask questions in public, okay? No more like going to DMs to freaking address something. We need to be skeptical ourselves, but also encourage that skepticism. When I first got into the space in 2013, like, it was drilled into my head that, like, nobody was trustworthy, everyone was evil, you should be skeptical, trust but verify, accountability, transparency, verify everything, blah, 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 blah. Okay? That attitude needs to come back so that we're questioning things, and that's just a part of our culture. And lastly, I would really love to see more public forums come back. Everything has seemed to move to these like sort of Telegram channels, etc., where you have this, it's terrible. You can't search it. You can't keep up with it. I don't even want to open Telegram these days. And one of the best things I would say about like the DAO is that I can literally go back to Reddit where all the conversations were happening, and I can learn from the attitudes before the DAO, during the DAO, and after the DAO. And you can learn from that because they're stored in these public forums. It's encouraging like long form communication. It's not these chat boxes. And I would really, really love to see someone take that mission on. And secondly, we need to secure and educate and share. When I say secure, I mean secure everything, right? So we need to have secure smart contracts. We need to evolve the languages that we're using. We need to do formal verification. We need to improve formal verification. We need to do all of those things. We also need to think about like just key security and key management, right? Like the key management for the smart contracts themselves and the users' keys, right? All of these different things. And by educating each other, educating our users, educating our peers, giving our peers the power to question us and question what we're doing and point out us, that's going to make the entire ecosystem more powerful, more healthy, and at the end of the day, more robust. And then one of the most important things is when you get hacked, please share everything about it. Share the learning experience, share what happened, share how it came to be, share what you were feeling at the time, dump it on the internet, and let other people learn from it. Because I can say, I'm not a smart contract developer, but I get so much out of reading the vulnerability reports and the disclosures. And I think that the more insight we have into the decisions people made and how those decisions led to X bad outcome, the better we're all going to be as we build our products moving forward. Hello? Okay. Lastly, we need more care and empathy. This is like just a trend in the crypto space. It's always been around, but it's been getting worse lately, where we just sort of like, okay, boomer is not an acceptable response to anything, okay? It's not an acceptable response to someone who just lost their money either. Like, that's absurd, and that's the ecosystem right now, okay? It's alienating, it's mean, okay? It makes us look like dicks. Can we just not do that anymore? But also, like, there's just this very pervasive attitude where it's like, well, if they can't write down 12 words, then they shouldn't be in crypto. Well, if they didn't know the risk, then they shouldn't be in crypto. They shouldn't have DeFi'd that. Like, no. You didn't tell them the risks. You've been bragging on Twitter and promoting your product like it is this fail-safe, freaking amazing thing sent from the heavens that's going to make them rich. And then you blame them when they put their money in it and then lose their money because you forgot to secure it. Like, that's not an acceptable way to do things. So we need to have care and empathy for each other. We need to have empathy for the user who loses their money, even if at the end of the day it's 100% their fault. It doesn't matter, okay? It still sucks. They still lose their money, and it still is bad for the ecosystem because I guarantee you those people don't come back. Like, you don't lose all your money and be like, yeah, crypto. Let's do this. Okay. So I made another meme. This used to say, did someone say ICO? Now it says, did someone say DeFi? Because that's where we're at today. I'm so serious, guys. Please do not underestimate the power of FOMO. Do not underestimate the power of greed. It will make rational people do irrational things, and it will, FOMO beats everything. Shit, I gotta shill. Am I out of time? No? Good? Yeah? Okay. All right. So 6 weeks, ETH price up 114%. Our beta site is up 68%. MyCrypto is up 75%. And our knowledge base is up 130%, which is like kind of crazy, right? Like, what does that mean? First off, it means that not enough of you are checking out our beta. It's really freaking cool. Go to it, beta.mycrypto.com right now. Secondly, it means that new people need help and they're looking for help, right? Like, we're seeing a greater increase to our support section in our knowledge base articles than we are to our actual product. And what this means is that new people are entering the space and they're looking for help. So create resources to help them. It can be deep. It's okay. People want that knowledge. And by creating those resources, you not only give them the knowledge, but you give other people the knowledge, and then maybe they can like distill it, turn it into a YouTube video. Like, that's how we educate the newcomers as they come in. Okay. So if you built a product post January 2018, and you've been like chilling in this bear market, been like, this is super cool, my best number one piece of advice for you is to go out and look and read and absorb every piece of information that you possibly can about the bad things that have happened, and then also hire like a bunch of support people and education people, because they're really hard to hire like in the middle of a bull run. And my best piece of advice for those who are just getting started: look, be scared, be paranoid, but don't let this talk like completely demoralize you. Experimentation is valuable, but you need to do it in a safe way. So we have like 5 different test nets. Use the test nets, right? Talk to people, experiment, have fun. Just like, don't have fun with real money yet. And for the OGs, the people who have been here since the DAO, the people who have been here since pre-ICO mania, my best piece of advice is to share the wisdom and the knowledge and the experience that you have gained over the past years. This knowledge needs to go to everyone else in the space, to the new people building, to the new users. Okay? When new people come into this space, when things get overhyped, the best thing that OGs can do is open their mouths and share all that wisdom. And I really want to see more of that, because that education and that knowledge is probably the number one thing that will allow this bull run to not turn into like ICO Mania 2.0. Okay, that education and knowledge is what's going to allow people to not lose their money. I really think I'm done. Because at the end of the day, the worst user experience is the one where people lose their money. So quit it with your fancy buttons and stop allowing people to lose their money. Okay, thank you. Love you. Bye.